Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce M&J Pokevids. He's a Poketuber. I've talked about Tamashi Hiroka before, so you guys likely already know the Poketubers can be really dumb. This guy, big shocker, is really dumb. He's talking about starter Pokemon in this one. I happen to know quite a bit about how bad a starter Pokemon can be. Namely, fucking Emboar!
Well, unlike you, I've actually directly covered Poketubers before, so I'll make sure you're not an idiot here.
And I'm a robot. Just reminding people that I'm in the story.
I'm still here, you know.
Let's get started.
Greetings, Pokefans! Michael here. So this video is probably gonna upset a decent chunk of you guys, so I'm sorry for that in advance. So here's an adorable picture of a puppy to get you in a forgiving mood.
Okay, serious question time for the audience. Why are so many YouTubers using animal pictures in their videos like this? I've seen Mappa and quite a few other higher-up users do this, and frankly, this comes off as condescending to your audience. Like, no one will be able to accept your opinion, so you decide to do, hey look, cute things over here!
I even understand the purpose of the joke. Oh ho ho, I'm saying something controversial. Here's something cute to make you forgive me. Yeah, problem is that it stops working as a joke when literally everyone does it, because we now expect it to happen, and it's not something we expect that adds to the video. If you presented it in a way that played with or subverted audience expectation or surprised us in some way, instead of just straightly playing a joke at that, let's be honest here, wasn't even funny in the first place, then you might have something, but instead it comes off as stale padding.
I mean, hey, if you're gonna play it straight, why not use a picture that's actually related to the video? At least it has something to do with the material we're covering.
Everyone who's ever played a Pokemon game has chosen a starter Pokemon. Unless you've only ever played Coliseum or XD, in which case you didn't have a choice, or you just played Pokemon Ranger, in which case you didn't have one at all. Okay. Anybody who's ever played a main series Pokemon game has chosen a starter Pokemon.
Except Yellow. But I'm nitpicking if I brought it up anyway. Wait.
Okay, well, you try to distract the audience with Litten. I'm going to explain that this opening section here is mostly not relevant. I'm not saying that it's not relevant to the video, I'm just saying it's not relevant to the commentary. It's pretty much just him jerking off to Sceptile. Oh, except this one thing.
Each number in this list will be an evolutionary line that I'll discuss as a whole, rather than any specific evolution.
This bites him in the ass later.
Also, like I said before, I am going to say some pretty mean things about these Pokemon, so if they're some of your favorites, I am very sorry. These are just my opinions, and you're completely entitled to your own. Even if they're wrong. That was a joke.
Tasteless jokes aside, there's that condescending attitude again. Which, while I will admit can be done in a humorous manner, you keep this tone throughout your intro, and it makes it hard to distinguish if you're being serious or hyperbolic to your audience.
Although another problem with your delivery here is that your timing for when you cut the music is just wrong. In this particular instance, you should have cut the music off as you started saying even if they're wrong, or cut it about half a second sooner at the end of the statement, as though whoever's playing the music just went, wait, what, in the sound booth or something.
In addition, like so many other times, yeah, opinions can't be wrong, technically, but what information you base that opinion off of can be wrong, and in this case, will be.
Number 5. Meganium. So I don't actually dislike Meganium much at all. It's just that I needed 5 spots on this list and there are only 18 evolutionary lines, and I just like all but 4 of them more than Meganium.
Then here's a thought, why not just do a top 4 list? While top 5s, 10s, and 15s are common with these lists, there really isn't a set number of what you can do. Some people will argue that's a moot point, but as we'll soon see, his reasoning for Meganium will show that making a top 4 would have been a better choice.
Meganium is on here mainly because it's just unimpressive. Its design isn't really awful, but it's not really cool either. It's just a long-necked dinosaur with antenna and a flower around its neck. And while I do love long-necked dinosaurs, Tropius just does the whole grass-type long-necked dinosaur thing magnitudes better.
Comparing a starter to a non-starter works how exactly? There's so many apples to oranges comparisons here, it's ridiculous. The only thing that they truly have in common, outside of move pool or stats, is that they're grass types that look like sauropods. Meganium's a flower and Tropius is a tree. Tropius happens to also be flying type, while Meganium is a pure grass Pokemon. Granted, some of this could be indicative of reasoning why Tropius appeals to you more than Meganium, but you give literally zero elaboration here, so good job just saying it's better without telling us why. Or for that matter, why comparing a starter to a non-starter makes sense on a list about starter Pokemon specifically.
I will say that I think Bayleaf has the best design of the 3, but Chikorita's is the worst. I really don't like excessive jewelry, and Chikorita's neck spikes look like a tacky necklace. Plus its head leaf looks like a misshapen ponytail. They modified it to look way cooler on Bayleaf, but then they replaced it with antenna on Meganium? What?
Because it's a bloomin' flower, and flowers have these things called stamen, which, surprise surprise, are shaped like antennae. As for the jewelry portion, what? A few beads, or buds in this case, is excessive? Maybe if it had it around their legs or something, but you make it sound as like if anyone wears anything other than a shirt and pair of pants that they're being excessive with their clothing accessories.
And if that's the case, you need to take off your hat.
Okay.
Not you, MTR! You're not even wearing a hat!
And it doesn't help that it's one of the weakest starters in any of the games, not having a type advantage over any of the Johto gym leaders and just being unimpressive overall.
Oh boy, now you've said it. On paper, yes, the line doesn't have an advantage, but let's look a little deeper, shall we? Let's start with the obvious. Price of the Ice Gym. Let's take a look at his initial team of the Heart Gold and Silver games. Seal, Dugong, and a Piloswine. A Water type, a Water Ice type, and an Ice Ground type. Sounds like those Pokemon all have a similar weakness to grass. Now, I've already debunked you here since you said the Chikorita line has no advantages in the Johto gyms, but since I'm feeling randy today, let's continue. Jasmine, 2 Magnemite and a Steelix. The Chikorita line resists electricity, and thanks to the ground typing, Steelix loses its resistance to grass attacks. Chuck, who only has 2 Pokemon, one of which is the water type Poliwrath. Claire, the only Pokemon the Chikorita line really fears is one of the Dragonairs with Fire Blast. Otherwise, thanks to the water typing, its grass moves can easily damage her Gyarados and Kingdra. Against the ever-threatening Whitney, the line learns Reflect at about the same time you get to face her gym, halving the physical tank that is Miltank. I agree that competitively, yes, the line isn't all that great, but in the games themselves, do your homework.
Meganium was meant to be a wall during the main game, which is a tactic different from what the other starters use, with both Typhlosion and Feraligatr having stats to be both physical and special sweeper, respectively. By the way, I'm not talking about competitive play when I say that, since it's apparent from what the highest base stats are and what moves they learn as they level up.
Quilladin is one derpy looking dude, but not in a cute way. Its nose is way too big and it's just really rotund, but not in a way that works for it like Snorlax. It really just looks like Chespin just got really overweight and tried to cover it up with leaves but couldn't because he's just too fat.
Or it's armor, which is what the line is going for.
Wait, why does being rotund work for Snorlax and not for Quilladin? Hell, Snorlax looks way more overweight than Quilladin does. See, you need to explain why something works in one place and not the other, or I just get to say that Sceptile sucks because Tropius is a better tree dinosaur and Ninetales has better tails.
And Quilladin's eyes are also really off-putting. I can't put my finger on exactly why, but I just really don't like it when it looks at me.
Okay, I'm sick of this. Every time you bring up something that I could also say about Sceptile, if I damn well wanted to, I'm just gonna shut up after this.
Why do I get the feeling that's a lie?
Mostly because it is.
Oh. By the way, still here, just letting everyone know.
Great!
Chestnut isn't as ugly as Quilladin, but it's still not great. First off, its color scheme makes absolutely no sense. Why is it suddenly beige and white? Brown was working just fine before. Well, at least it was on Chespin.
Other than the fact that you say the color scheme doesn't work for Quilladin with that statement right there, never mind the fact that changing color schemes work for Infernape, who becomes red, white, and gold by the final evolution, when the color difference between Chimchar and Monferno was that Monferno added blue, which is no longer present. You compliment this Pokemon later. This doesn't even touch the many starter lines, including Sceptile, by the way, that go into a different shade of the same basic color by their final evolution, if not before. Guess what beige is a lighter shade of? Brown.
Chespin's evolutions were just overall disappointing, since Chespin was so cute and had a lot of potential to turn into something like this. But instead we end up with a fat goblin and a winter Santa turtle.
Oh boy, this argument. You base your expectations on fan creations. That's always a fun thing to do. Look, I get you don't like the design of the evolutions of Chespin, but this is a really weak argument against it since it comes off of being completely whiny that a fan interpretation of a Pokemon that wasn't revealed at the time of it did better than is a moot point. Since, guess what? The fan design has nothing to do with the creation of the Pokemon itself. And it's not really giving Chestnut and Quilladin a fair chance. And 2 things about your fan design. 1, That's crouched over 2, so your complaint can easily be applied to that. And 2, it would render the other 2 lines' themes, the witch and the ninja, to be really weird.
The one fucking time you tell us why something is bad, and you have to show us something to contradict it.
Number 3, Embor. The first firefighting starter, Blaziken, was awesome and super badass. The second one, Infernape, was still pretty cool. It was a bit weird that they did it twice in a row, but they also did pure water twice in a row, so it wasn't a huge deal. But then this abomination was just the last goddamn straw. Embor is the pinnacle of the firefighting starter hate. Not only was it the 3rd in a row, which is way too much, but it's just so freaking ugly. I mean, just look at it. The fire around the neck looks like they needed a way to make it more obviously fire type, so they just picked a body part and tossed it on there.
And hey, the same can be said for Infernape, since it has fire on its head. Or how about Charizard? Fire on the tail. Why do they work, but Embor doesn't? This concept is weird since you don't explain how it's obviously a fire type without the flames. Is it because of its coloring? Well, that can't be the case since we have tons of red-colored Pokemon that aren't fire types. Learn to explain, otherwise this comes off as confusing and petty since you showed not only 10 seconds ago Infernape, which your arguments can easily be applied to.
They just threw a tree on the Sceptile's tail!
And the fact that it stands on 2 legs is just so awkward. It looks like it could trip and fall in any minute. Plus, it seems like the only reason that it's bipedal is so that it could be fighting type.
Doesn't look like it's gonna trip to me. Looks like it's getting thrown, but not that it would fall down. After all, sumo wrestlers, you know, the thing that Embor is based on that you completely fucking miss, stand upright just fine, and they happen to be very rotund themselves. I'm thinking you just have something against fat people. Oh, and as for making it bipedal to make it fighting, musketeers, your argument is invalid.
Tepig started out on 4 legs and was really cute. Why didn't they keep it that way?
Seriously, are you really using the quadruped to bipedal as an excuse to hate on Embor? Other starters have done this, yet they aren't on your list. For example, Mudkip, Froakie, and technically Cyndaquil since we see Quilava on its front paws, and then back to Typhlosion. Why do they get a pass but Embor doesn't?
Because they aren't pigs?
Does this count as a try-up? For the depth?
No.
Damn it!
We could have had a really cool, tanky, and beefy fire pig or warthog.
Someone's obviously never heard of wall breakers, to get past the more defensive teams. Plus, that's the highest HP and attack stack of all fully evolved starters, not counting Mega Evolutions. That last point is a fact, so what the hell are you on about?
But instead we end up with another fat middle evolution wearing... Is that a wrestling leotard?
Yes. Yes, it is. Because it's a wrestler, you dumbass!
Everything about Embor is just so wrong. Its typing, its posture, it's ugly, it sucks in battle.
Sucks in battle, huh? How so? You never really go into detail in looking on, say, the competitive scene. Oh, look! It has a strategy for the overused tier. And since you don't explain, that's a tacked on complaint that has no water to it.
It's pretty bad when a guy like me, who hates Embor and thinks its usability is fringe at best with better choices for its purposes all around it, is willing to say that Embor isn't as bad as you're making it out to be.
And not to mention that face. It looks like it's plotting how to sneak into your room at night and tickle your feet.
Stop looking into my soul!
Number 2, Empoleon. I know that a lot of you guys love this Pokemon, so like I said before, I am very sorry. But this thing is trash. Piplup is adorable, I will say. The writers of the show made a good call not evolving Dons in the anime, because it evolves into the hands-down, no contest, ugliest middle stage evolution starter in existence, and possibly one of the ugliest Pokemon of all time. I mean, just look at this atrocity. What happened to your face, man? And what's with those white dots on its belly? That's not cute. It looks like it was eating too many s'mores and spilled marshmallows on itself and forgot to clean them up later.
This isn't really convincing me that Primplup is actually ugly. Maybe if you didn't try making lackluster jokes and actually, explain your reasoning, then maybe I'd see where you're coming from. But instead, all you're doing is acting childish and entitled just because Pimplup was cute, its other forms should follow suit. Which can be a complaint for the other members of this list and the other starters in general. Which, if you think about it, Bulbasaur had it worse, turning into a wart-covered dinosaur with a flower popping on its back. Ugh.
You know what else has random circles on its body that don't have any purpose or explanation?
And Empoleon is not much better. I really don't like it when Pokemon have the appearance of wearing clothes, so Empoleon being intentionally designed to look like it's wearing a suit is just so dumb to me.
Oh, I know, right? I mean, it's not like you brought up how cool Blaziken and Infernape are in design, since it looks like Blaziken's wearing a martial art gi, or how Infernape could be wearing a white vest, or shoulder pads, or boots. Sarcasm aside, there's also Greninja, hi there, tongue scarf, or Samurott with its shell helmet, or even Chespin, since it has little leaves on its head that look like a hat.
By the way, Sceptile. Red belt.
And you obviously haven't seen what the Emperor Penguin looks like, since guess what the term penguin suit comes from?
And that trident on its face looks awful as well, like someone just stuck it on there with super glue and hoped for the best. Plus the claws on its wings are just so unnecessary. What did you think you were going to accomplish with those? Carrying toothpicks? And what's with the steel typing? Water Steel is a cool type combination, but it's just not obvious enough on Empoleon.
Neither is the water dark typing for Greninja, or how Charizard should have been a dragon.
You know what doesn't make sense as a dragon, though? Mega Ampharos. Like, seriously, you get a fucking perm and that makes you a dragon?
You know, for a second there, I thought that you were going to say...
Oh yeah, also, Mega Sceptile.
The only thing that I see that reminds me of the steel typing is the trident, which as I said before, looks stupid and it's just a f***ing decoration.
First of all, it has blue armor on its body that could easily explain the steel typing, as well as the gold it has on its back and the golden claws too that you complained about. And secondly, the horns do have a reason, and it's explained in the Pokedex since they're used as a symbol of strength and leadership of the Empoleon, which looks like a crown as well.
Empoleon is easily the worst Sinnoh starter, and the fact that Torterra and Infernape can handle it with their ground and fighting moves respectively is just salt in the wound.
This is a moot point since A, Infernape's still a fire type, and thanks to the moves such as Aqua Jet, it can easily deal with Infernape's weak defenses. And B, thanks to Torterra's ground typing, it loses resistance to water, and it makes it a lot more susceptible to moves like Ice Beam. And in that regard, Torterra would actually be in the worst camp, since guess what? Ground doesn't offer any resistances to the fire type attacks.
Even if you remove TMs from the equation, Empoleon learns Drill Peck as well, which in case you didn't notice, is super effective against both Infernape and Torterra. So it's not like Empoleon can't also deal with both of its rivals with its own moves as well. In fact, if the only types that the Pokemon get stabbed for matter, Infernape has it worse than Empoleon because he's weak to both Torterra's ground moves and Empoleon's water, and 71 is a lower number than both 88 and 101, so he has lower survivability against any super effective stab attack.
Number 1. Delphox. Delphox. Delphox is the epitome of evolution disappointment. Chespin, Tepig, and Piplup experienced this as well, but Fennekin had it the most severely. My thought process went a little like this. Alright, that's the fire starter. Kinda cute. Not my favorite, but it's not bad. Kinda curious to see what it— Oh! What? What is that? Why is it on 2 legs? And what's with the stick coming out of its ass?
Do you not know basic anatomy? That's its tail! Are you blind?
You know what else had something sticking out of its ass?
It's the tail, you
Off statement,
That's just weird and— Oh dear God, what is that abomination?
Hey, those were my exact words when I saw your video.
Delphox is actually trash. More so than Garbodor, and has gone down in history as the biggest starter disappointment to date. Its design is just so freaking bad.
By your hypocritical standards? Yeah, right. Who's saying it's the worst starter? Don't say it as if it's a fact, cause guess what? You can play the opinion card all you want, but the moment you start using absolutes, that's when you start putting your own foot in your mouth. What are you, a Sith?
I found a Reddit thread from February of this year, 4 months before this video, asking what people now thought of Delphox. The opinions ranged from, well, what you're saying, to outright loving it, to liking its pre-evolutions more, to liking the final evolution more. Link in the description.
Like with Emboar, putting it on 2 legs feels awkward and unnecessary.
Why? Because it's crouching in the picture you're showing? It's able to move fine in both anime and in the game, so you just saying it's awkward doesn't hold up. Once again, in lieu of actually explaining your points, you come off as childish and petty.
And its appearance is just off-putting. I know they were going for the whole mage thing since Chestnut's the warrior and Greninja's the rogue, but this is just not how it should have been done.
I don't get this line, how it shouldn't have been done, as if you know how the design should have worked. Maybe if you actually explain why the design doesn't work, I'd give you this, but once again, it comes off like you based your expectations on the critter for outside concept art.
You know, it really does sound like you're saying it's bad because it's not what you wanted. Do you watch wrestling by any chance? I feel like you'd get along well with the fan base.
But the freaking hair! What on earth? What idiot thought it was a good idea to give a Pokemon so much ear hair that its wax could power every lamp in America prior to our switch to incandescent bulbs?
I don't know, probably the same guy who designs the Pokemon, like Ken Sugimori. I looked and I didn't find any other designers for X and Y that really claimed on Delphox or any other starters. So congratulations, you just called the creator of possibly even your favorite Pokemon an idiot. Now, like I said, I didn't see if he specifically created them, but he was the chief Pokemon designer, so he did probably have a hand in it. Also, very classy, call the designer an idiot. That really shows how mature you are.
It's just weird and gross. And like I said before, I don't like clothes on Pokemon. So Delphox wearing a tunic made entirely of hair is just incredibly dumb.
But red belts, martial art gis, and tongue scarves are A-OK!
Delphox is so bad that it's not even in Pokken Tournament and Breaksin is instead. Even the people who make these games acknowledge that they f***ed up.
Delphox is so bad, its pre-evolution is in Pokken Tournament instead. Okay, what about Greninja, Gyarados, Superior, most of the evolutions, Whiscash, Misdreavus, Dugtrio, and Marowak, all of which had pre-evolutions appear and not the final forms. What's that? It's because it makes more sense for the pre-evolutions to be assists? Then why wouldn't Breaksin be a better fit for the roster than Delphox, much like Pikachu was chosen over Raichu twice? Saying that something wasn't in another product doesn't mean it was an abject failure in design. It means that they felt something else was a better fit. That's like saying Infernape's a bad design because he's not in Pokken.
Don't you mean Sceptile?
I wish. Sceptile's actually in Pokken. He sucks, though.
Look, I'm not gonna say I don't have my own likes and dislikes when it comes to the Pokemon world. Before Mega Evolution came around, I thought Charizard was the worst starter of all time. Mainly due to it being a glass cannon with weaknesses to rock, water, and electric, being overhyped due to the anime and such. And all in all, it comes off as a rather simple design, which for me and my subjective taste isn't something I'm for. But that's actually me explaining the point without coming off as a spoiled brat. Can you guys tell that I picked Squirtle for my first Pokemon? But back to my point, you're more than welcome to have your opinions on what starters are good and bad. When you start using double standards to berate designs, you open yourself to a lot of crap. And frankly, no amount of cute animal pictures and supposed joking around won't save you. What's worse is that you were all over the place with your points, which ranged from in-game usage to subjective design choices that had a lot of childish jokes and insults in lieu of actual points, and all in all, having your biased double standards slapping your viewers in the face constantly. This was the first video I ever watched of yours, and frankly, if the rest are like this, then your content isn't really for me. I'm not actively hating on you for your choices, but rather your justifications as to why they're on the list.
See, here's the thing. I agree with a good bit of your list. 3 of your 5 entries are ones that I would have listed among the worst as well. But not only did I find fault with your reasoning behind them, mostly because there really doesn't seem to be any real reasoning, and the criteria for a Pokemon to be considered for the list seems to shift randomly. It just doesn't make a lot of sense in the end, and makes it difficult to follow your train of thought, even when you do elaborate. So my advice comes in 2 pieces. First, elaborate your points. But hey, that's so short and to the point it may as well be the last bit of a sharpened number 2 pencil. Advice number 2 is this. Think about what criteria matter the most and the least, and make it clear to the audience how you're coming up with your conclusion. That way we can at least follow your train of thought, even if you don't explain it to the utmost detail. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to...
What are you doing?
I always introduce the person who made the original video. It's kind of my thing. Come on, man, I've already been questioned on this crap once recently.
But this is my channel. Fine.
Yay! Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce to you Red Pill Gaming, one of those YouTubers who just talks while there's gameplay in the background. $5 says that if I search for Diablo 3 gameplay, I'm gonna find this exact video somewhere without his commentary. Anyway, let's skip over his still image intro with a social blade splash at the beginning for some reason, and get started. Does Social Blade offer some kind of video editing or something? What the fuck?
Before the video begins, I want to say that I have a good 25% feeling that this guy is possibly a troll, but looking at how he's responding to his comments, I'm more than willing to believe that he actually backs up what he's saying.
Back with another video. I want to touch on a subject that's actually been disturbing me a lot, and it has to do with a certain trend that's starting to pick up now in this century, and I want to talk about bronies. Of course, with how I'm starting out with this video, you guys probably already figured what I'm going to have to say and where this is going to lead to.
You know, if I had a dollar for every anti-brony or brony hate material I've seen, I'd probably have enough money to buy ad space on PewDiePie's channel. But bad jokes aside, this topic is literally a dead horse. Practically everyone and their mother has already complained about bronies, and it's usually the same rehashed argument all the time. You want to bet what he's going to say?
Yeah, my money's on this video being a time capsule from 2010, especially since he acts like bronies are a brand fucking new concept. You know, 6 years after the movement began? Intelligent.
But for the most part, I do not like bronies. At all. I do not like them. I mean, I'm pretty sure more than enough of you already know what a brony is. It's a guy that basically likes, or is a fanboy of, My Little Pony. Whether it's the toys, the cartoon show itself, and even the costumes. Yes, this even goes as far as guys dressing like My Little Pony.
You know what I find funny? Later in the video, he'll talk about how people like bronies weren't around in his time. But if you just take the bare bones of what he just said, they watch the show, they buy the merchandise, and they go as far as dressing up as characters from the show. This can easily be applied to Trekkies. And for those who don't know, these are uber fans of Star Trek, which began being documented in 1969. And there were testimonies from people like Leonard Nimoy about how frantic the Trekkies were. Hell, there were even documentation of people acting like this back in the times of Sherlock Holmes' initial release.
With the horns and the wings and the colored long hair. I see something wrong with that, because I see these kind of guys as being emasculated.
Well, yes, I suppose if you're going around your daily life wearing unicorn horns, you would definitely look a lot less manly. Oh wait. Yeah, I seriously doubt that a guy like Biggie Langston would be willing to don what The Rock referred to as a llama penis if he thought he was emasculating himself. And if you think that, then, well, he probably doesn't give a fuck what you think, as he's probably more secure in his masculinity than someone who exclusively displays female video game characters and then talks about how feminine guys who like something he doesn't are.
And I do want to make one key point very clear, and I do mean very clear in my video. I am not knocking on these guys because they like a certain kind of toy or a cartoon or a theme involving a toy. That's not the point here. That is not why I'm attacking these guys. Well, I really shouldn't say attack, but I guess they're going to take this as an attack because I already figured that more than enough bronies are going to hate on my video, and that's perfectly okay if they do that, but I gotta talk about them.
This is something that really irks me when it comes to people talking about specific groups of others. They'll often say that the community will hate their work simply because they're talking negatively about them. There are a number of factors that can go into reasons why people can hate a video, you know, and give it dislikes. The argument could be weak in their view, your gameplay music is too loud and you couldn't be bothered to add the audio of it so we could actually hear you talk, or anything as petty as just hating your voice. People can dislike your video for any reason, logical or illogical, so don't assume that any hate you get automatically comes from bronies.
Also notice how rambly this video tends to be. Repeating yourself for the sake of repeating yourself, going off on a secondary subject in order to cover your tracks, etc. Also, no, you don't have to talk about them if they aren't shoving their fandom down your throat, which, based on the way this video sounds, they aren't.
But like I was saying, if it was toys like that, such as Voltron, G.I. Joe, Transformers, Robotech, Thundercats, and such, you know, boy toys, I guess you want to call them, I wouldn't be knocking on them, because those are all male-themed things.
Well then, I guess you can't knock on bronies then, because allow me to introduce you to the Guardians of Equestria line of toys. These toys are based off the MLP line with more action-oriented base to them. For crying out loud, there's an armored stallion riding a dragon. That sounds like something you'd see on a heavy metal rock cover, for crying out loud. But that's beside the point, because here's something else. You're not going after them for like a specific franchise that's targeted towards a demographic outside their own. You're going after them for a specific franchise that's targeted towards a demographic outside their own. Oh, but your parameters are gender. That makes it okay. Yeah, no it doesn't. Oh, and by the by, make note of his use of the word toy. Not all bronies care about the toys, just like not all Pokemon fans give two craps about the anime.
The reason why I'm attacking this group is because they are liking a female-themed setting. The cartoon, the toys and shit. And they're going as far as dressing like them.
But here's the thing, you're making it out as if they dress up as the characters on a daily basis. And you're painting as if it's the entire fandom doing it. That's a mass generalization, and considering that your name is a Red Pill Gaming, which is a pop culture symbol for truth, you're doing a good job of lying to your, well, relatively small audience.
If you do a Google search based on this, it's really fucked up. You'll see more than enough bronies, and you'll know what a brony is.
I like how you say Google search based on this so that you can cover your ass by not showing that you used a biased search term to make the results as cringeworthy as possible. But we'll get to your cherry picking and propaganda later. But how do I know that you were covering your ass? You had to pause mid-sentence in order to make sure you didn't give a specific search term that proved that the images that you show later are further down. Oh, but don't worry. I'll point out how badly you cherry-picked these in a moment.
I mean, there's even videos where a lot of guys are admitting to being a brony, and I noticed there's also hater videos against bronies, and I'm all for this. I'm all for guys that are going against them. And the reason I'm all for this, for these guys that are going against the bronies, including myself, well, it's because I see it this way. If you like a theme that is based only for females, either a toy or a cartoon, even if you go as far as dressing like them, you are going against your own male nature.
Now this is something I find hilarious. Just because someone likes one thing, and I do mean one thing, that means they're going against their nature. It's almost if bronies just like one thing and that one thing be the show. Take me for example. Yes, I am a brony, and yeah, I like the show of course. But I also like mystery, noir, manga and anime, and live action Japanese tokusatsu shows that can have scenes like this. But apparently, according to this guy, you can have the manliest guy on the planet who would be the definition of masculinity, and it'd be Dash simply for him liking Rainbow Dash. Such wonderful logic!
Common Chicken, you may not be aware of this, but I'm really good at using people's own logic against them, so let's go by this guy's logic that watching a television show is designed for the opposite gender means that you socially belong to the opposite gender. There is one thing that he's forgetting. Social and biological gender are two different things. While it is true that there are certain aspects of human behavior that do naturally change with whatever genitalia you happen to have, but when it comes to media consumption, boy shows and girl shows are solely based on social perception and have nothing to do with biological instinct. Hell, watching television technically goes against that in the first place if you really want to go there, so your argument about going against nature falls flat on its face because it's about a fucking TV show.
You are totally emasculating yourself. And this is what these guys are doing clearly. They are totally emasculating themselves. Who is going to promote them for this? Well, of course, feminists. I mean, think about it. They promote gay rights. They promote same-sex couples. What makes you think they're not going to promote this? Feminism... I mean, God, feminists, they'll promote anything that's fucked up. And I see this as being totally fucked up.
Where the hell did that come from? And do you not realize what you just implied here? You just implied that homosexuality and gay rights were a bad thing. So congrats! You just got another reason why people can dislike your video.
Why do people deserve to be disallowed from having credit, having a place to live, or even getting a job on the basis of sexual orientation? Even better, do these people deserve to have criminal behaviors including vandalism of their property and murder, fucking murder, mind you, happen to them because of this? I mean, spout out of context Bible verses all you want. I live in Alabama, I get that if I spit my gum out in the wrong time. But the Bible specifically says that these actions are wrong, whether your interpretation includes homosexuality as a sin or not.
Hey, like it or not, I'm sorry. I don't like bronies. I just don't like them. And I certainly would not... God. What the fuck, man? What is wrong with this century?
Oh great, he's circling the drain. You know, it wouldn't kill you to edit out some of your pauses, or when you forget what you're saying, or repeat yourself, or repeat yourself, or repeat yourself, or repeat yourself, or repeat yourself.
We broke him! We fucking broke him! Somebody give me the number for 9/11!
Because they only started coming into this century. Back in my day, you know, girl things were only for girls, and guy things were only for guys. Such as Voltron, Transformers, Thundercats, Robotech, even Mask. I'm sure most of you guys remember Mask, the cartoon and the toys.
And I used to walk 10 miles to school every day in the winter without shoes! But more to the point, while I don't know how old you are, I'm guessing you're referring to the late 70s or 80s depending on the brands you mentioned. I was a 90s kid, And I grew up with these things, and guess what? A lot of the girls I hung out during that time were also into that He-Man and Thundercat stuff. Hell if I know why, but I guess I could speculate. Girls and guys can like whatever the hell they want. Just because something may target a certain demographic, that doesn't mean it's only for that demographic. Now you might be thinking that my personal experience doesn't really count as an argument, and you'd be absolutely right if I was going up against facts. But since this guy's using his own personal experience as an argument, I feel it's fair game.
I mean, back then, hell, you didn't even have bronies. Back in the 70s and the 80s. But now, I'm seeing a lot of them. And it's fucking ridiculous.
Trekkies. 1969. People like bronies existed. The only difference is the media they were watching.
It's crazy how there are so many guys that are just totally throwing their masculinity. They're just, God, they're just totally throwing away their masculinity.
Didn't he already make this point? Oh, great. The YouTuber's broken again.
Do I need to get the antihistamine again?
God, it bugs me so much. I'm even screwing up on my own words in my video. Man, I can't believe this shit. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to show a little clip show to you guys based on how the typical brony looks like, and oh god.
Translation. I went on Google, cherry-picked some pictures, and project that onto the entirety of the brony fandom.
Brilliant! Brilliant!
Guys, I'm going to be real with you. I hated doing this part on my video and editing these fucks into my video because I could not even look at them for 2 solid seconds. Hell, I couldn't even stand looking at them for 1 second. So, I'm going to show you guys what typical brony looks like.
Warning! Warning! Bullshitter alert!
Yet you couldn't do basic editing so we could actually hear you in certain parts of your video. Now, I'd like to point out a few things about the pictures he shows. A number of them are taken from conventions, events where people will dress up and can act as their favorite characters from any sort of media, meaning they don't dress like this every day, yet he'll paint the picture that bronies will dress and act like this in everyday life, which is not the case. Are there cringeworthy people in the brony community? Yeah, I won't deny that, but 1, you find these people in every community, and 2, these tend to be a minority of people.
And let's take a quick look at the Google search just to see how badly this guy cherry-picked. I search brony cosplay and I see one of your images near the top and none of the others anywhere in the first 100 images. But let's say you just search brony because you're not aware of the cosplayers. Okay, you find one more image. Repeatedly, I might add. The only time I find anything else within the first 100 images, insert the word cringe into the search. In other words, you found 2 examples by just searching for the terminology, 1 example by specifically searching for the worst, and even after that you had to dig for 4 more examples. If these were sent to you, congratulations on judging an entire fan base on images that show up low in Google searches. You win a gold star in your face. By the goddamn point.
Bronies? Guys that are into My Little Pony. Didn't know a single one that was into it. Because they didn't exist back in my time. There was no such thing as bronies. Until this century. Which, we live in a century where black is white and wrong is right. And everything is just backwards, twisted, and fucked up.
You know, that can actually be applied to this very video. Because you only stereotype bronies on the fact they like one show. Uno show!
This being one of the problems, I wouldn't even be surprised if these guys were actually gamers. And I'm pretty sure more than enough that there are gamer bronies in the gaming community. That's just as bad as the fake girl gamers coming into the gaming community.
You know what? Get off your high horse! I'm barely gonna touch the fake gamer girl thing since that's a can of worms that I don't even want to go near. But gaming is a media that everyone can get into. Bronies, girls, kids, everyone can get into gaming. It's elitists like you that are giving gamers a bad name, telling people that if it's effed up if some people get into gaming. Meh.
Fake girl gamers, huh? You mean like my sister, who's 3 years older than me and probably fits into the age demographic that you're trying to call normal better than I fit in that age demographic? You mean like some of the college girls I hung out with during high school? For fuck's sake, that argument is so dated that it was irrelevant when I was in high school. I'm fucking 29 years old. Also, keep in mind that your gameplay footage is out of a female playable character. You know why female playable characters are popular enough to be an option in games like Diablo 3? Girl gamers who want to identify with their in-game avatars.
Man, this is really fucked up. Guys that like My Little Pony. You know, My Little Pony fanboys. Such things like this are just unheard of back in my time, but I see this century has changed for the worst, and a lot of things have changed for the worst. This being one of those things. And I know most likely a lot of people are going to hate this video, because most likely a person that dislikes or writes nasty comments in this video is most likely going to be either a Brony fan or a Brony himself.
Yet one look at your comments tell a different story. With what little comments you actually got, you never got any flack for your BS.
I don't care for them. They're not my kind of people. You know, I don't do shit like that. I don't wear a horn on my head with long rainbow colored hair and a rainbow outfit. That's not guy stuff. That's not masculine. Hell, I don't even know if foreign women found out these kind of guys were doing this, they would even see something is wrong with them, because they favor masculinity.
Foreign women? What? Great job generalizing again, buddy! Why bring up foreign women? And considering that there are Brony conventions in Japan, Australia, and Europe, it's safe to assume that there are foreign women who might be into bronies. Not all, mind you, but there are some who could be.
And I am truly a 100% masculine male who likes Voltron, Transformers, Thundercats. I know I've been over this so many times already in this video, but I gotta keep stressing on this.
Oh, no, we didn't skip anything here. He's saying that women will find him sexually attractive because he likes Voltron and Thundercats. Excuse me a moment.
I can't believe there's actually guys that collect toys and watch the cartoon series of My Little Pony. It's for girls. It's girl shit that guys are getting into. I see something very wrong with that.
Alright, there's a big difference between this and this! Quality, good story writing, some halfway decent action. This drew people from many walks of life to the show to enjoy it. Good sir, please remove your head from between your buttocks. You will find that the air out here is so much more refreshing.
And when I see a guy dressing like that, I either think he is gay or something is seriously wrong with him. He's clearly fucked up in the head if he happens to be a My Little Pony fan.
Hey, that homophobia is showing up again. You gotta love them Freudian slips.
I know I sound very offensive in this video, but I got to.
No, you really didn't. You could have easily chosen not to do this video. It's your channel. You decide what to put on here.
I don't like this shit. I'm not into this shit. It's not me as a masculine red pill man who likes video games. It's just not me. I don't like this shit. I just don't agree with it. It's... oh god, it's just very distasteful to see guys like this in this century, I mean. But it just goes to show you on how more men are becoming emasculated, and this is one of those ways.
What is a man? A miserable little pile of secrets.
But I had to talk about this. I really had to, ever since I've seen the Brony community growing, and it really bothers me that there are guys like this in this century that are into such things.
And it took you 6 years to do this. The Brony community's been around since the show's inception. What the hell have you been doing? Skipping the rest since he just repeats his point, although there's one more thing I want to point out.
Man, fucking bronies, man. I guess they can't take a joke either. Well, I tried telling them. With all the shit they're doing and the way that they dress, well, they're just emasculating themselves. But do they want to listen to me and everyone else? Well, nope.
How do you know it was bronies who disliked the video? Also, what video is this? And, can I go back to my coffin now? This guy makes me want to try to ascend to the heavens again. As I said earlier, there are cringy people in every community or fandom, but this video was just a mess. Poor audio editing, there were times I couldn't even hear the guy speak over his gameplay, which when presenting yourself is a dumb thing to do. Then there's the repetition. We get it, you don't like bronies, and you think they're not masculine. But just because you repeat something, that doesn't mean it's true. And the cherry picking. Enough said.
This video is fucking awful! Those of you who have followed my content probably know how I feel about lies and manipulation of information. And when you boil this down to its essence, that's all this video is. Oh, but it's worse, because it's not like people have any reason to buy this bullshit, and not just because accurate information about the fandom is already well documented and more easily available on the internet than your video is. It's because literally everything you say operates on an outdated mindset that pretty much falls flat on its face once you say the words, "It wasn't this way 30 or 40 years ago." So as much as I hate to ever say this, my advice is that you get with the times. Your brain isn't just stuck in that time period you keep bringing up as a time when bronies didn't exist, when you provide no evidence to support the fact that fans of programming for the opposite gender didn't exist and instead weren't willing to talk about it in society because of the associated stigma and didn't have the internet to talk about it in a less judgmental environment. In other words, the minority now has a louder voice. And it's not even the minority in this case, since the show's just better written and animated overall. I say as a non-brony who has seen the show and thought it was decent.